Hey, welcome to the first episode of a pretty much wide branching series that I've been planning to start for a couple of years now. It's nothing special right now, it's just going to be me talking over whatever images I can find to illustrate my points. Um, I've been planning to do a series where I just talk about ideas I have, and today I felt like I'm not doing anything else, and Masako's recent create a Saiyan theory actually got me thinking, like, yeah, I guess I could start with this for one of my ideas. So, for to for today, I'm going to be talking about something that in the Dragon Ball Z community, fan community, the Dragon Ball fan community in general, I don't really see being all that popular. But I always felt the Saiyan forms, particularly Super Saiyan 1 through 3, really needed to be something other than power multipliers. And like I said, that's a really unpopular theory with the Dragon Ball community. But I always felt there could have been so much more done with these forms than to just make them more powerful than the last. Instead, making them more okay. This is Super Saiyan. That well, it'd probably be just to explain what I mean one by one, starting with the base one, the one everybody thinks of when they hear Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan 1. Uh, for the most part, I'm okay with it being the first Super Saiyan form being somewhat of a multiplier, but it doesn't need to have an exact number, in my opinion. It could be like completely relative to whoever unlocks it, and the sub forms with the grades could be what could be as vaguely as much more vaguely defined. They don't really need to be an exact number because in any situation, some one Saiyan's Super Saiyan might be more powerful than another's. Like we saw in Super with Kale, they actually established that some people just have a completely different transformation when they try to go Super Saiyan, and I feel like that would work a lot better than just making it the same exact number for every single person who uses it. And it'd be a lot easier to balance things out if one character Super Saiyan is stronger than another's, because that means that making them stronger without the transformation can actually mean something again. And that's always been something important. But for the most part, I'm okay with saying as it works, but maybe just make it less, make it more vague. That's all I would really want. Next up is where I would actually start making some more radical changes, and that is Super Saiyan 2. And I'm in the minority of not really liking the Cell Saga, particularly the Cell games and all that. And I've gotten to several arguments about whether or not Super Saiyan 2 Gohan has any reason to be considered a definitive Gohan moment in general. But now, we're just focusing on the form and considering when it was introduced and and how it was used. I really don't think it needed to be another power multiplier at all. It didn't need to increase power. We've got this form that seems more intense than Super Saiyan, so it could be Super Saiyan with something added on, but it doesn't need to be just, oh, it's Super Saiyan but stronger and it looks slightly different. Instead, I think capitalizing on the lightning here, in particular would be really interesting, and especially since the villains that we face in Z at least, all having regeneration past this. I think having the lightning disrupt regenerative powers would be an interesting way to make it a form that really came through when it needed to without making it increase the power scaling so much. It was like it wasn't that it made Gohan more powerful than Cell, it was that it gave him a counter to the regeneration ability. And that would also give an excuse for it to see more use in the Buu saga. And just the idea that the lightning itself could be a counter to regenerative powers would be something that would actually give us a reason to actually see Super Saiyan 2 more, and then also have a reason that people aren't using it. It's like, oh, this other person doesn't have any really regenerative ability, so there's no reason to use Super Saiyan 2. Its base form will do just fine. It's pretty much the same power level. And just the fight with Cell could have been a lot more interesting if there was a way to just turn off his regeneration or give him injuries that he couldn't regenerate from. And you wouldn't need to change all that much from of that actual arc in particular to make that work. So yeah, for Super Saiyan 2, regenerative cancellation powers with the lightning, and yeah, no real power multiplier because narratively the power multiplier wasn't really what was needed at the time. It was just Gohan actually fighting and having the lightning this form also still having the aggression thing would have been good. Although from what we see, that doesn't seem to be a factor so much for anybody else who used it, just Gohan. So moving on to the lovely Super Saiyan 3. Trying to find find a good image of this is like don't even bother. It's like it is very hard to find any shot of Super Saiyan 3 that looks good that isn't fan made. I'm not even sure if one of these are fan made. If they are, I apologize. I tried to find the most um, official stuff I could, but it's difficult. Anyways, with Super Saiyan 3, this is kind of how the idea all kind of started. I felt that Super Saiyan 3 absolutely did not need to be a power multiplier because nothing in the saga actually indicated that more power was what was needed. It was again regenerate. They were fighting against the regeneration ability, not a high power level. So having a form that increases a high power level didn't really make sense for to be introduced then. However, a big thing with the Buu saga that could have been interesting to introduce into a Saiyan form was magic. So a magic variation of the idea that Goku, while learning stuff from the Afterlife, met with a bunch of fighters that used magic in their combat and felt, oh, Boo's made of magic, so why don't I try this form I've been working on that utilizes magic as a power source? Like it could. That sounds really vague, but it's also, but also with Super Saiyan 3, there wasn't much done with it to begin with, so having something as simple as, oh, there's magic to this form, so it's going to be easier to combat magic users, like get through to them. And then with the lightning of Super Saiyan 2, you could also say it also breaks through to his regeneration abilities. Give you a reason to actually fight Majin Buu with it after discovering the power drain. But yeah, I guess that would be the only real change for that. It's still not as um still not as elaborate of a it's a change, but it's not. I don't have any like definitive thing I would want to say about it besides the magic aspect. I just feel like that should have been the angle that should have gone with. Um, for the record, I should say that I am a big fan of Toriyama's works in general, and anything of me saying, "Oh, they should change this," or "they should have done this," is not me saying that I don't like Toriyama's works. I love them. It's just, I'm aware how flawed they can be, and it's I enjoy them all the same. So, moving on to the outlier, I'm not gonna touch on Super Saiyan Blue for this one because there's nothing to really. It'd have to actually have something to work with to begin with, because we don't know what it does. We don't know if it's a power multiplier from Super Saiyan God, or if it's a just Super Saiyan with the same abilities as Super Saiyan God. I, we don't know enough about Super Saiyan God to even know how that would work. So, but this is less me changing the form and so much applying explaining my personal headcanon for how this form works, because they were vague with it. They said it gives you the power of a god. Doesn't really explain what that is, and most people are thinking it's a power multiplier again, but I actually think it's something different. And my personal thought with Super Saiyan God, and if this is not the case, I think this is should how it should be in my personal uh, grouping of all these forms. Um, the idea to explore the idea of Goku and Vegeta not really being able to grow in power anymore because they kind of reach the limits of their mortal form. Like their bodies cannot produce any more ki than they're already producing. They can't really get more defined muscles than they already have. And the idea that a god doesn't have to worry about their mortal form because they're gods, so they have like a sort of astral plane where they can store their energy and their power, and so it's kind of like having the power of a giant while still saying in your normal form. And it also kind of explained why the muscles retract is because that's being stored in on the astral plane. You don't need that anymore. So Goku and Vegeta. I was going to try to fight Vegeta just for this because I really feel that form suits him, but there weren't that many good ones available from the Broly movie. So basically, the idea is that all their energy is now being stored on an astral plane or in a godly state, and thus it's more. They can have more access to all their energy at once. They can build up their energy even more than before. It doesn't explicitly make them more powerful. It just gives them access to more of the power they already have. And in a sense, if you trade in this form or any form that uses the same ability, you could get more powerful within that form. But then you go back to base form and you're back to what you were before you accessed that form. And there's also the pretty prominent fan theory that Goku can access God Ki without actually going into any other form, which does explain for a lot of times when they all of a sudden he always all of a sudden has almost um, not Ultra Instinct, but Ultimate or Mystic or whatever you want to call it type aura, like the clear aura around it that suddenly seems to be a power boost. And yeah, I could see that also being a thing, and in this sense, that would be him tapping into his godly plane or astral plane or whatever you would want to call this place where he's storing all this energy and ki that he wouldn't be able to fit inside his own body. Um, I guess with Blue mentioned, I could touch on Blue for briefly because I do think there was something about them holding the key inward at, for that form. So perhaps you could say that kind of contradicts this idea. But I could also you could also say that the astral plane is within them, so they're able to do that. Actually, able to do that, and that's how they're able to go Super Saiyan. Is like they're able to contain it, so it's not all leaking out, and then it's also so that lets them go Super Saiyan with with that same sort of energy. Um, but I think that you've heard me babble long enough for this one episode, and I don't know how good this will turn out, how popular this will get, and I don't know when the next video will be, but I will have to worry about that later because really I think this is about all I can do for now. You, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked my ideas, or at least would like to provide your own take on them. And I will see you on the next take.